ladies and gentlemen, today I have for you some words on passive real estate investing. Apparently, it is a topic for which there is a content gap, and I am here to fill it. Here, as we see, we have this website, and they're talking about the the media features that they've gotten, and we're not going to really focus on that. But what is Lofty? This, as we scroll down, will tell you exactly what it is. It is tokenized real estate. But what is tokenized real estate? Basically, you break an investment property up into chunks. In this case, $50 chunks. You sell them to an investor. Investors plural in this case, and as you see, these listings here are just that. These buyers then are afforded a representative portion of the rent and governance. So should we get this insurance policy with this type of coverage or that insurance policy with this type of coverage? Should we approve the repair for this amount? That, just decisions like that. You then receive your rent and, as I just said, express your will via governance, i.e. what should happen with a delinquent tenant. Would be more humane, I guess. You could give them what's called cash for keys. So rather than evict someone immediately right off the bat, you say, here's 2 months rent, please leave. And if they don't leave, maybe then we'll begin filing for an eviction. Anyway, but you get to make your voice heard on that representative to however many tokens you have. So very akin in that way to shares in a company. Why go through all this hassle? Why not just buy a property and own a property and have it registered to you under your name? Well, assuming you know why people incorporate, it's to prevent or to limit their liability, much like you would take out an insurance policy to limit your liability so if something happens, you don't lose your house. Same thing for a business. That is why we incorporate businesses, to insulate whatever is going to happen in that business from everything else that we have going on. So if I have an investment property, it's best to have that have its own legal entity, like an LLC, rather than all the properties in one. Because then if someone makes a suit against me, or rather, against me, or it could be against the business, but for the purpose, I'm just saying it's me because you're the investor, and this is illustrating an example. So you are getting sued by this person, and you have all your property in a company. Maybe you knew well enough to limit your liability and you put it all into a company. But if you have it all together, they're not insulated from one another. So if a slip and fall exceeds the limits of your insurance policy, they can come after the other businesses, the other property that you have. Sorry, not the other businesses. The other property within the business they can come after, even if it's not, implicated in whatever the suit is about. So that's the main reason. So that the money that you're spending, building your nest egg or growing your company or what have you isn't, taken away by a lawsuit. Anyway, so that's the point. How are the fees? So this looks pretty tasty, if we're being honest. And their sell here, skip the payment, the down payment. That's a huge barrier for most people. I like that they're targeting underserved population here with $50. Earn rent today. That's pretty sweet. No monthly or quarterly. They pay you out daily, which is really awesome. Own multiple. I'm not going to go through all this. I'm here to review it. I'm not here to read their webpage, but it's very easy to read. It's well thought out. It gives you an idea of what they're striving to achieve, and we're going to go through it as a walkthrough. I get a little tutorial as well on A to B, how to invest. The fees. Back to the fees. So we're just going to click on Texas. Wow. Okay. That, so they put some money into renovating it for sure. token price has fluctuated, which just means, the price of the property is fluctuated. We got a mother-in-law suite. Oh, it's rented on Airbnb. That's pretty sweet. Usually Airbnb means more than a traditional rental. It is managed by, some property manager. We got, some insurance policy from some State Farm office. And we have the leasing information as well as the actual lease agreement itself. We have plenty of documentation to go into if we want to do our due diligence, which we most certainly do. So what are we going to look at? I am curious what they renovated because it looks like they did a bunch. So over these 3 months, that's all that they did. And it looks nice, but it's not. It's vinyl planking. So, but quartz countertops, that's kind of nice. Stainless steel appliances, that's kind of nice. They're not shooting for the top of the market with these homes. So most of the renovations that they do just look nice. They aren't terribly expensive, which, doesn't impact cash flow all too much, which is most people's primary objective. People aren't, owning real estate to, house people. I'm sure that's a nice benefit that people do get housing out of, your landlording, but that's not the point. The point is to make money. Anyway, so there's just everything that we could possibly want to know about the property is here. So we got a new tenant. They signed a 12-month lease. They gave us monthly rent of $2,500, and they have a pet apparently, which we're on board with, and they're going to pay an additional $25 a month. It's cheap flooring, so frankly, I don't really think that it matters all that much. $25 over the course of a year isn't that much either. But it's the difference between having a tenant paying $2,500 and not. So I can see the people who owned this voting, yes, we'll accept the pet, or maybe it was the property manager or whoever it was. But so that is a brief overview. It'll also show you where it is. We can check out the street view, go through the neighborhood. This doesn't look. Oh, I kind of like that lot. Kind of like that home. This doesn't look like too bad of a neighborhood, to be completely honest. And we have all of the relevant updates as they happen. So each of these updates, depending on what it is, you would be getting an email, and it would be asking for your input, and however many tokens you have is however much input you have relative to everyone else. So if you really want the property manager to do X and everyone else wants it to do Y, they're going to do Y. All right. So beyond that, so we didn't even talk about the fee, which was the whole thing that is it not going to show me? No, it'll show me. Here we go. Financials. Here we go. So that's what they paid for the house. This is closing costs, the fees for the decentralized autonomous organization, limited liability company, maintenance reserve, so that cash flow is not impacted, vacancy reserve, so cash flow is not impacted. There is their fee. They take 5% of this, I believe. That doesn't look right. I'm gonna do a little bit of math right here, but that doesn't seem quite right. Nope, that's perfect. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly 5%. So it's 5% on that underlying asset price. That's the fee that they take. I personally think that is extremely reasonable. To go more into due diligence, you can come over here, obviously, and see what the property taxes are, and the insurance, and what we're paying in property management and utilities, and ultimately what the cash flow is, which is what we're all looking at. And if you're a visual person, they have this nice, neat little thing. Show us our investment plus cumulative appreciation. This is all projected, obviously. This is not guaranteed in any way, shape, or form, but the cash flow, so your rents plus the appreciation, and then they have that in numbers here as opposed to just visually charted here. If we want to view the secondary market, we can go to the order book and see. There's no real reason to do that. You can buy it direct from Lofty, so there's no real point at this point to sell it on the secondary market. Some especially attractive properties sell out, and you can no longer buy shares of them from Lofty. but typically people are willing to take a gain on their investment and cash out and sell to you. So, but you're going to pay more. So tokens that cost more are, considered more favorable by the market, same way that assets would in any other market that trend upward. Anyway, so we're all done with that. No. When you buy and sell in the secondary market, it's a 0.5% fee. I almost forgot that. So I use it. I use it. I like it. I haven't staked the whole boat on it, but I put enough in it to try it out and see what exactly it does. And frankly, I quite like it. I think that it's quite easy to use. I went into the maintenance reserve and the vacancy reserve, but what I didn't go into is what is hard, and that is setting up an Algorand wallet. So this program, this application interacts with the blockchain. So your ownership is recorded on the blockchain. So if you are unfamiliar or unwilling to learn that this is not for you, flat out, this is not for you. There are other platforms that perhaps may be more interesting. I believe Lambda is one of those. Arrived is one of those, which I believe is Amazon backed. We're not going to go into those in this video, but if there's interest, I'm happy to do reviews on those as well. Also, what's awesome is, so when you have taxes to file, it is easy for us to get our tax information. It is easy for us to get our LLC information, and as I described to you earlier, it is also easy to get our due diligence information. So, repair invoices, property deeds, the financials, sales comps, rental comps, the actual lease agreements themselves, taxes. Actually, the taxes are individualized, so I am looking in completely the wrong place. I just realized that, but just for the sake of it, I want to show you what this looks like. Closing statement, closing wire. We got a value report for the property, which is going to show other comparable homes and rental comps and sales comps and so forth. We got the LLC, renewals, lease agreements, insurance policy, the deed itself, registration for... I think we already went through this on Odom, but in case we didn't, here it is again. And as I said earlier, the taxes are unfortunately not there. They're personalized. I'm not going to go over there, but just so that you know, they are available. They are readily found for those that are looking for them. They had an issue with them, frankly, not that long ago. About a year ago, they had a substantial issue with getting them out on time, and it was causing a big headache for a lot of people. And luckily, those people stomached it, so you don't have to. So you will have no issue finding them. So if I wanted to withdraw this money, check out how cool this is. No fees. There's a fee on them, and I can't imagine there'd be a fee on that, but it doesn't say that there isn't, so I'm gonna assume that there is. But yeah, you can cash out to money as soon as you want for free, or you can cash out to crypto if you want, which is not free. But I think it's like a cent, or it's something very reasonable to transact. Okay, so how would I actually, let's go into this real quick. So this is a report that they give you, but it's full of juicy information, like the purchase history of the property. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, stop. Sorry about that. Gives you a whole bunch of interesting information, like other comparable home sales, active listings, how long they've been on the market, the square footage, beds and baths, gross living area of the property relative to others in its vicinity. Same thing with the area of the lot. Same thing with the bedrooms, bathrooms, and then the age. And then there's a market analysis going back what is that? 4 years? 3, 4, something like that. Same thing with supply. I wouldn't really pay too much attention to that. And then a glossary in case you're unfamiliar with any of those terms. And then the cool thing, what I really like about Lofty is that it's run like a company. So the tokens give you say in governance. So this was for that property, the one that was here, 6914 Polonia Ave. And this is in reference to its homeowners coverage. So if you're unfamiliar, the difference between these two is essentially this is what your home is worth if we do its depreciated value minus, this is let me start with the replacement cost, because then it'll be way easier for me to get the opposite of it. Replacement cost is what it sounds like. So that is the value that it costs for you to replace it. So that is going to pay 100% for whatever the damage is to be fixed. So some staircase gets broken or what have you, that replacement cost is actually going to cover the cost of it. The actual cash value is kind of like the cheaper cousin, like the substitute, if you will. So instead of being its actual the value that it's going to cost for you to replace it, it is instead it's your cost to replace it, and then it's depreciated. So however old it is, it gets depreciated. Since you can't replace it with 20-year-old, I'm sure that you can find it or what have you. But basically, it's a cheaper insurance option. It doesn't pay you as much money. So in this case, we voted to do replacement cost coverage, which is the more expensive coverage, which will cover losses more completely. Sorry to fumble on that. I knew what it was, but I confused myself for some reason. So the tokens, we forgot to complete the process. So we bought the tokens, we got the corresponding amount of tokens in our wallet. We now are receiving the rent, and we now are receiving the governance rights. I showed you how to withdraw, right? We withdrew like there. What are my results? Perhaps I didn't forget anything. But anyway, what are my results? My results, as you can see here, these have not yet finished selling out, so they're not changing in value. The cash on cash return is substantially different between the two of these, but frankly, I was impressed with the tenants in here. McDonald's is one of them, and they're all agreeing to lease renewals with rent increases. And as I said, they're all like well-known companies that are in those spaces, so I'm confident that they will remain. This one has a way higher cash on cash return. 2 of these units are vacant right now, so don't just go on numbers. Always do your due diligence. Anyway, so when these update in price, this is probably going to go up, and these are very likely going to go down. This, has hardly budged, but it's been spitting out 8.5% in cash. That's not bad. This thing here declined a little bit. 3% really ain't that much at all. 8%, that's like a 5% net, it'd be like a 5% gross. This one, on the other hand, is 15% appreciation plus 8% cash on cash return. 23% gross, just 23.5% gross. But unfortunately, this is my smallest holding, so it doesn't have too much pull, too much weight on the rest of them. But I had a good time, frankly, picking this out and looking at it like I'm a real estate investor without needing to plunk down tens of thousands of dollars and go do all this due diligence, myself. in person and speaking to realtors and speaking to loan officers and all this. I could do all this without even interacting with anyone. I've asked, what's his name? They have a chat function that's being a little slow right now. It's actually my connection that's being slow. It's not theirs. But they have a guy whose name is Max, and I swear he's on this like 24 hours a day. It's like they'll respond to you in like 20 minutes. It's ridiculous. So any question that you have, like any time of day about this platform, how they're governed, how things work behind the scenes, any question that you can't find an answer for, ask them and they'll answer it. And I've been thoroughly impressed. I like asking a lot of questions, and I really like places that honestly field them and attempt to answer them. But they don't attempt to answer them. They like always have exactly the answer that I'm looking for, like laser to the point. So I think they understand how serious investing is, how serious securities are, and I really like the professionalism, because as I know, it's kids that had made this. They're not too old. They're about my age. They're in their their later 20s, so a few years older than me, and it's impressive. But they have advisors that are well older than them that are guiding them, so that not too many mistakes are made, and that this can get off the ground as it has. I'm actually an early backer. This started in I don't know when it started, but started a year or two ago, and it was an investment club. That's what their lawyer told them to refer to it as, to classify it as. So back then they were only able to have like 100 people or something like that. So I couldn't really tell too many people about it because I didn't want people to get I don't want people to get like turned away. And I also didn't want the platform to like come under unnecessary scrutiny, because I was all over it. I was like, how is this possible? How are you registered? Are these registered with the SEC? And I was really skeptical going in. I was probably, I'm one of your more skeptical consumers, if I'm being completely honest. And there's no exception with this year. Should you use Lofty? You have to answer that question for yourself. So if you are interested in the benefits of owning real estate, passive income, as the title of the video says, passive income, real estate is great. Real estate is really awesome for cash flow. It is really awesome for providing to you money consistently over time. Someone needs space to operate a business. They need space to grow their crops. People need space to live. There are rental opportunities everywhere, and it is a business that generates cash for you, and you can leverage that in any number of ways. But how are you going to go about structuring how you put your money in and how you get your money out? Are you going to be in control of everything? Are you going to be the property manager? Are you going to be your accountant? Are you going to be everything under the sun, so that you can retain as much of the rent as possible? Or are you going to say, maybe this is a blind spot, maybe I don't have time for it, maybe I don't want to do it, and so I'm going to hire it out? If you're any one of those latter and you want to hire it out, I would strongly suggest a platform like this. So I don't need to deal with those delinquent tenants that I spoke of. And I don't need to feel bad about evicting people, because the properties that I own, we don't evict. So we do evict. We don't evict initially. So we offer cash for keys. I believe it's 2 months rent if they vacate the premises, so that we can rent it to someone who will pay us. And that's realizing that person still needs to find housing, like whether or not they could afford to pay us, whether or not they got fired, regardless, that person still needs to find housing. If they lose housing, it's really hard to like continue on in modern society when you don't have housing. For anyone who's never lost housing, it is hard. So yeah, so I would if real estate investing is attractive to you because you're looking at it as passive, it gets substantially less passive the more active you are. So the more hats you wear in regard to your investment, your property, your investment property. If you're the property as all those things as I said, you are really not a passive investor anymore. You know, like if I receive dividends as a shareholder, I'm not really doing anything for that, like at all. I don't need to make any calls to anyone to make anything happen. If you're the property manager, if you're not making calls when your tenant calls you and complains of this being broken or that being broken or what have you, you're not acting in the best interest of that property owner. So obviously some people don't want to give up control for that reason. They feel like no one can maintain their property as well as they can, or no one can care about it as much as they can. But let me tell you, if you pay someone, a professional, to care about it for you, they do a pretty good job. So I see value in not having to do it personally. I can see value in doing it personally for that additional oversight as I just described. So if I'm managing a property for, say, my own family, would I hire that out? Probably not. I would probably just do it for my family because I feel like I would do a better job by my family than, anyone else would do, no matter what I paid them. So, with property managers in mind and the cost of doing so, if you hire a property manager yourself, it's not unreasonable to pay 10% of your of the rents that are collected. So what if I told you that, because I'm sure other platforms get this too, but because Lofty has so many properties, they get basically bulk discounts. So instead of paying 8, 10, 12% on property management, I'm actually paying like 5.7%, which is dirt cheap. Like I would expect that to not get me much of anything, let alone like handling all of everything for me in regard to the management of the property and making sure that issues are diagnosed quickly and repairs are done quickly so that damage to the property is minimized and distress to the tenants is minimized so that we all make more money. If we neglect things and let people live in filth and agony, they're not going to want to rent with us anymore, and we're probably going to have a hard time filling those vacancies. So that's kind of my take on Lofty. I'm personally a fan. I would not suggest you check it out, but if you're interested, I think it's well worth your time to look at for the reasons that I've mentioned here today. So with that, good day.